Strikers 1945-3 lands the number 5 spot on this list, not because it's a bad shmup, quite the contrary, but because it fails in 3 to 4 out of 5 of the quality standards posted at the start of this video. Like every other game on this list, starting the game offers a daily gacha prize box, usually with a few thousand coins inside. Coins are used to buy the first alternative plane, to pay for the random AI partner, or to fly a mission with a random plane, locked or unlocked, which is a nice bonus. Upgrading planes takes premium currency, rubies, which can either be very slowly farmed by playing well, or with real money. You can also then use rubies to buy more gold. The average cost of the upgrades is around $3, which is really not acceptable. That being said, as I'm free to play, I didn't get around to actually getting any upgrades, not that you really need them. There aren't many settings in this game, just sensitivity, alt button orientation, left or right, and control type. I recommend the pad type control since touch type does not move one-to-one with your finger position and uses relative acceleration instead, which is rather annoying for a mobile shmup. Here's where the game shines. It's a solid retro-style arcade shmup with 4 difficulties and consecutive levels from start to end. That being said, I don't consider a phone to be a good arcade equivalent rather than a handheld console, so apart from reminding me of Raiden, the replayability ends there. On to the cons. The bullet patterns from enemy planes is fine, but the bullets and ults from your own planes would be better suited for an anime-style bullet hell. Not that I don't like anime bullet hell, but it doesn't suit this list. Another downside is 2 levels of immersion breaking. All the bosses in the game are 2-stage transformer mechs, and the final 2 stages are a bit too out of this world for a game with 1945 in its name. "1942 Arcade Shooter" is actually the first of 2 games on this list by the developer OneSoft. The daily login bonus in this game offers a bit more than just gold, as it gives some temporary power-up items. And by temporary, I mean level-long modifiers. There are a number of other dailies and gachas to do as well, some of which you can spend real money on. This is the only game on the list that rewards playing for multiple consecutive hours, which definitely hurt its score for me as a shmup in general. On to the options. Again, there is sensitivity, alt button orientation, and control type. Control types offered here are one-to-one relative and direct, with the difference being whether the plane is under your finger or not. I would recommend not. The number of planes available, similar to the last game, is relatively low at 5, plus additional planes that can be earned for playing the weekly events which pit players against extra difficult mission type, Infinity or Intercept, as well as heavy normal play. Infinity is self-explanatory survival, while Intercept pits you against a very long boss fight. Regarding ads, you'll get a short one at the end of every level, or a long one if you opt to double rewards or use a revive. Also, if you die, you'll get an ad, but you can skip it. Every level is 1 stage, and meeting the bonus challenges rewards level medals. There are also 3 difficulties, but they are sadly level gated. All the gacha and gimmicks aside, this game is a fun, historically based shmup. Bullet patterns are within reason. Enemies and bosses are based on actual planes and ships, and the overall feel is very good. That being said, there are some faults that leave it at number 4. The primary fault is the method of picking up in-level power-up, which are very temporary. The method of picking them up requires shooting them to change what they are, whether it's an HP bonus, or a gun type, or an ally. This method of power-up pickup is good for an actual arcade in my opinion, but not so much for a mobile game. Another downside is the difficulty curve, with normal level 10 and on feeling quite a bit harder than it should have been. Apart from that, locking most planes behind hefty paywalls or heavy play does not seem appropriate for the quality of game. I also don't encourage long play on phone games, and so that leaves this at number 4. iFighter 2 The Pacific 1942 takes 3rd place on the list for good reasons, and it probably would have been number 2 if not for its cons. But more on that later. Again, this game has daily login rewards, including premium currency and even planes, as well as rewards for completing daily achievements like playing a number of missions without being hit, etc. These award large amounts of gold and upgrade materials. Onto the settings, a new movement control is introduced in iFighter. if your phone happens to have an accelerometer, which most modern ones do. Additionally, there is the standard touch and one-to-one relative. For this video, I used relative to show how the finger placement interacts with the plane. The planes available in this game are much more accurate in design than the prior games, both in bullet design and aesthetics, with most planes being one-to-one replicas. This is also the first game that introduces static power-ups, an actual hangar, and real history. Upgrading planes is done in the hangar, and planes as well as allies are each upgraded separately. You can also view bullet previews in the hangar before buying or even upgrading most planes, as long as you have the level required to be able to purchase them beat. There are 40 historically based story missions, as well as intercept and daily upgrade supply award skill missions called training. And if you were wondering about ads, it seems like they're probably broken, so you can ostensibly just ignore them. So what's the problem? Two things leave this game in the number 3 spot. The first is the ease to accidentally spend premium/daily currency on revives, while the second is the quick difficulty curve. At least for beginners and casuals to mobile shmups, this will probably not be a welcome addition to your library despite how beautiful and immersive it is otherwise. That being said, if you want to know the most historically accurate mobile shmup, and that includes the 20 other titles outside this list that I played for this review, this would be it. Air Attack 2 might surprise you being at the number 2 spot on this list, despite being a steampunk rendition of World War II. A lot of the reasons behind that being the lack of gachas, the length of play, and the homage to being relatively accurate to history. Well, except that last stage. Let's not talk about that. 21 out of the 22 stages are good steampunk World War II fun, without taking creative liberty too far. Which, if you happen to know your history of the experimental death machines made and failed to actually get off the ground during the war, you might have a bit of extra immersion even. This game also benefits from a general lack of interruptive ads, with the one annoying one being the revive ad if you are playing in portrait mode. By the way, did I mention this has portrait mode? None of these other games have that. That being said, there really aren't a lot of other settings. Control types are touch, accelerated relative, and accelerometer based. I recommend touch. You can also configure a number of button layouts for using a controller or even a mouse to play, almost as if they expect people to play on BlueStacks. The hangar for upgrades in the game appears, oddly, after selecting a given level, where you can buy temporary action button power-ups, which include the awesome first-person gun, as well as permanent upgrades that get very expensive in in-game currency very fast. Although you shouldn't really need higher than level 5 on anything. Overall, this is a good historically based mobile shmup without too many drawbacks, with Raiden-style bosses, level challenges, and good replayability without a lot of in-your-face gachas and demands that you play a lot to unlock things. The bullet patterns are also acceptable with consideration to the steampunk rewrite. There's just that last boss. Ruined it for me. 1945 Air Forces, aka 1945 Arcade Shooting, is the second game on this list by OneSoft, and I can only assume a technical sequel to their other game. Like their other game, the settings are nothing special, with a sensitivity slider and either touch or nearly 1-to-1 relative controls. The daily login bonuses and gacha style rewards are still there, but this one also has much less of a paywall behind opening chests. One major bonus to this game is the near absence of ads, with the option to watch a bunch in a row for some gacha or specific loot, and for revives if you can't afford the paltry amount of gems a revive costs, which of course you earn by playing if you aren't buying them for real money. Additionally, the sheer number of historic design planes and allies is staggering, and will keep you playing for weeks if you've got the urge to collect them all. You can also preview the bullet patterns of planes and allies as well as test them out. The static upgrades for your plane are also earned in a linear and set way as you progress through 100 levels in 3 difficulties and 10 world map areas. Oddly enough, this is the only game on this list to make it clear that the war is happening across continents, which you think would be important for a world war game. There's also a smattering of quest type and event type missions that you can try to score high on to earn weekly gems if you top the leaderboard. Alongside difficulty levels that aren't level gated as long as you beat the mission on the difficulty below it, bullet patterns that actually make sense, missile dodging, and other fun gimmicks, with the only immersion breaks being the occasional laser, lightning, or beam gate dodging gimmick. This game takes the #1 spot in this list deservedly so, and will surely remain installed on my phone forever.